come through here. I'll have to see exactly how this will go for Sharks. Crew looking to hold backside at the moment on these A positions. It can be pretty crucial to just hold on to that backside, just prevent the opposition from getting all of the post-plant positions. Gives yourself something to work off of on that retake. We can see now Crew starting to make their way forwards. Lige able to take down one. Traded though, and Spike only now just getting planted. Let's get there as well. So it feels like the positioning here is quite nice so far for Crew to make this retake happen. You can see that the positioning for Sharks is somewhat awkward in the corner there. Oh, beautiful paranoia coming through just at the right moment. ENG though trying to do something with that ghost, but it is all too little and too late. Three players surviving, and there we go.
Exactly how you want to start things off here, Dan, for Sharks. A very strong pistol round, very defaulty, the old school play style that you mentioned before, but understanding how to play it, right? So you have that double duelist getting into the site. gaabxx is moving in with the dash on the top of 410, but you stay put behind with Lige. Lige waiting for the right moment to throw the paranoia. The wall going in the back of the site from Fra. Now, as Sharks, they hold that W, right? The Brazilian playstyle, you stay inside the A site and you fight back. You're not playing any pulse plant usually with this type of composition, and which is what we see. The angle has to be perfect. The crossbar setup has to be perfect too for Sharks, and it's been good when you also have frenzy raid bosses going in for Sharks' side.
Yeah, it was such a nice timing from them. Releasing the paranoia. Perfect moment. We'll get a quick tech pause here. And
it's the right moment, I find, you know, because we talked about how positive it was, Dan, for the pistol round results for Crew, and unfortunately, their first pistol round that they now play and the one that they lose at is in an elimination matchup. So getting a tech pause, I think it's going to be a good way to calm the jitters a bit, understand that the Sharks, they're still going to play the same play style. They're still going to play very aggressive. How do you adapt to that right now with the composition that you have?
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to see, and apologies in advance if any mistakes are made on pronunciations of names. This is a particularly challenging one for us, I have to say, but we'll do our best in that count, and chair modifications happening.
I feel that I've spent more time trying to learn the name pronunciations than trying to look at the play styles, at least for Sharks. But I feel like we were getting close to nailing it, but it's still very fun. Also, just to understand now the clashes of the play styles and stuff like that too. And looking at right now what Crew currently has, Dan, with no flashes in that composition either, right? We have a Sova, a Jet, a Sage, a Killjoy, and a Viper. You're going to have to use that Viper to your advantage with the combination of B and J as that Sova, just to try to block out vision when they're going to try to retake these sites, especially if they want to play the retake style versus the aggressive Sharks.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how that comes about. Is there anything in particular that you'll be looking out for here, Vansili, in terms of answers on the defense? Do you want to see, Crew focusing more on a retake style of play, especially having Viper and so on, and again we don't have a Viper in the hands of Sharks, so
correct.
I feel like that toxic screen on the retakes is going to be pretty awesome.
100%. Save that into your kit for Mazino right now, right? Save that toxic screen. If you're going to be anchoring towards that B side, very typical, the Viper Cloud that you could throw towards that B side just to try to create or deny vision, deny map control on the early rounds of the round, at least for Sharks when they're trying to move forward. But for the retake, the toxic screen, if you throw it out towards the A side, for example, for retakes, for B side for retakes, you could actually allow your teammates to move even closer and really go into the close range battles in the end once the toxic screen goes down. Because again, you don't have any flashes, right? So you're just trying to set up, post up your teammates, and when the wall goes down, it's going to be a bloodbath.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's I've actually been someone that, I think since the very, very beginning days of Valorant, was a huge Viper fan, and just waiting to see her get utilized. And it seems like there's such a, with the patches that we've seen and how strong she's become through some of those buffs, obviously now your hand is kind of forced to use her, but I felt like she was always quite usable. A lot of teams were trying to make it work, but it was quite difficult. So it's cool, at least at this point, because it's a possibility. You never know how the balance changes will happen, but it's a possibility that Viper may receive some nerfs or the agent may change. But what I think is really cool is that because so many people are forced to adopt her, we are seeing a lot more creativity and people kind of understanding how Viper plays at the top level and where she fits in her role in a team and what she's strong at. And I think that's really cool because, again, once she gets nerfed, there will be new things that will have been discovered about her kit through this kind of meta that we're experiencing now, where people are playing her a lot, that will be useful going ahead into the future. You know, much like we saw a resurgence of Sage, everyone's like, oh, you know, Sage has been nerfed to infinity, she's not useful anymore. But then you see people finding ways to use her. That's super interesting and really effective in current metas. You know, I think Nitro was someone I think that did a lot with that. We saw him bringing out Sage on Ascent and making it look really good.
Yeah, and then now giving it to Ethan, and they've been doing quite well. Unfortunately, not making it right now into the Masters 2 stage. But even looking back at how Viper is so oppressive right now with the new changes, there's also been a recent nerf to her as well, right? Instead of going through anything that has a decay, instead of a 50 decay, it's a 30 decay. And I think the idea behind that is just to allow players not to be too afraid of the toxic screen. So you can still try to swing through it, but only getting a 30 decay, you bring a little bit more confidence as a player trying to bring those surprising battles against your opponent by swinging through those walls. But I think it's still good enough where the post-plant play, the post-plant meta right now for the Viper is still quite effective. I mean, we've watched it throughout the last 2-3 days that the Viper Cloud with the Snakebite combination at the end has been very strong for players that are, or teams that are still using a Viper into their kit.
Definitely, and with that said, it looks like we are back into the action once again. Sharks versus Crew. Here, this is map 1, icebox between these two teams. The loser will be eliminated here from Masters 2, so you don't want to be losing this one. But it's early days, as you'll see Crew get the worst of it, worst end of the stick on the pistol. They don't have too much here. They are going for the save, and we'll see them making the walk through B long mostly with a 3-player push.
Well, Klaus is going to look for information at least, though. That 3-man push is going to help a lot. You still have one other person watching that flank, though, from the attacker of deNaro, right? So let's see how that plays out.
Yeah, it's looking like Sharks are going to be in such a great position here. They have lots of play. A couple players, in fact. Nice forward kills coming in from prozin there. Able to make things a little bit easier. Crew, though, still doing damage. They've somehow created a 2 versus 2 retake. There's lots of time for them to make this one work as well, as that spike is only freshly planted. Quick heal there to get prozin in a better position on this next swing from Rafters. Able to take down one. Now it's down to NagZ in the 1v2. Oh, did he get spotted? I don't think so, but there we go. prozin will be able to take him down with the Ghost. And pretty good effort there. That was a full safe round coming through from Crew, and they managed to get quite a bit of damage.
Exactly. Just unfortunately there for NagZ can get more kills so that he could prep up the Blade Storms a little bit faster. But I was chuckling a bit because we literally just talked about, hey, we should actually save our toxic screen for the retakes. But at the same time, I do understand that it's a pistol round. You want to throw that wall early inside the B side, a triple push, so that if there's actually any contact, you put that toxic screen up, you try to set up your players on crossfire setup aggressively towards that green side of B. And when they didn't see any contact, when they didn't see any information, they know the coast is clear to go towards that flank for Crew to actually be able to make it a 2 versus 2 with only classics on board. So this helps in the economy. We're trying to play aggressively towards this A site at the beginning, and it pays off as Klaus drops a key player as gaabxx falls.
Yeah, lots of time to work with. At least the spike still able to be collected, and loving the pressure here from Sharks on the A side at the moment. You can see that in terms of the rotations. It's not too certain here for Crew as to what's going on. This holding a 2-1-2 mostly. Ooh, mazino able to take down deNaro there on B long. Still challenging this position is Sharks. Down to 3 players now. prozin's managed to get really forward positioning, and they surely need to go with that, but NagZ will take him down, and it's just going from bad to worse here for Sharks as Crew are taking liberties. mazino, look at this push from him around the side on B long. We'll find the spike and Leitch as well. Beautiful stuff. Excellent hold from Crew. Kind of felt like Sharks needed to kind of group up after losing a player there. They sort of just got picked off one by one.
Yeah, and even looking at how Crew are playing that defense too, this is where it's going to start getting scary too for Sharks, I find, because when they only have a paranoia in their setup right now to try to take these sites, I think they might encounter the same issue as if you're trying to play against Sentinels with Shahzam, when we're actually going to have an op getting ready towards the A side. He becomes pretty unstoppable because there's no utility that's going to allow him to roam and move freely towards the A side. And on top of that, when you have a Killjoy to be able to stop any type of pushes, then now you're looking at these toxic screens that it's okay to have them move forward, as delZeek actually goes for the self boost and catches Leches off guard, drops it, and makes another early 5-on-4 situation. So we talk about aggression from Sharks here, Dan, but it's been Crew all along.
Yeah, such a great forward play, and they're going to be able to fall back. And lots of utility exchange here. The wall was burned. You can see the poison orb is down there as well. And I think at this point, Sharks have made so much noise and investment, it's quite clear exactly what's going on to Crew. And they've got that rotation coming through here to support in the defense of this site. prozin there pulls out the showstopper, looking for a target, able to find one, does get traded straight away. And so that is still going to leave Crew in a decisive advantage, a great position. With that pick, though, from deNaro, perhaps something can be done here. gaabxx is trying to see what he can do, getting peppered there from distance. This is not looking good right now for Sharks. They try to find a way to get that spike planted, and time is against them as well.
Yeah.
Only 35 seconds, so that rotation feels very long, and they know there's got to be players, or at least somebody, watching out for this rotate.
30 seconds left.
Exactly. It's just going to be very difficult, too. And that person that you're talking about, Dan, is going to be NagZ right now, already aiming down the side pretty much on that mid side. The crossover, he's going to waste time no matter what, right? Even if he loses a couple of fights, doesn't even need to lose it. Gets the last two, and that's an easy lineup right there. Crispy on the shots. We're tied 2-2 at this point, and like you said, Dan, they invested a lot on the attacker side for Sharks on that previous round, just on the amount of utility that was thrown towards that B control to try to take the green side, especially on a player disadvantage. But what I do like from Crew is that they actually get the early man advantage. They don't fight more. They fall back. They play the numbers. They even set up crossfires deep inside the site too. That keeps prozin guessing with the showstopper as well. So Sharks, they still need a couple of rounds to readjust and understand how Crew plays, but Crew seems to understand how Shark is playing on their side, and they're countering it really well.
Yeah, they're doing a great job, and you can see the response here in the following round is just to send it on that A side. However, the Viper's Pit here from Mazino, you can see this is that elevated Viper's Pit. It's very difficult. We'll have to see if Sharks sort of understands what this Viper's Pit means. Maybe they can get some spray through to the likely positions that Mazino is standing in. But at this point, it's a 5v3, an advantage here for Crew. They are looking really good on the shots as well so far. Crispy aim, looking very confident out of the gates so far today. And they will be finishing things off one by one.
Yeah, it's not going to look good for Fra, unfortunately, on this 4v1. He does manage to get one at least, but this should be it, right? They know where he is. They're going to try to peek out. The teammates are coming for it, and NagZ gets a 4K on that. And as you mentioned, the elevated Viper's Pit, there's so many ways of running that Viper's Pit, either on A side or B side. And even on A side, sometimes you have Vipers that actually want to even control the orb. What I like of how Mazino is actually placing it towards the A side is that it actually denies any type of player on the, or any player, sorry, on the attack that tries to get an early control of 410 at the same time. So when you're looking at a double duelist setup with Sharks, trying to go for a dash onto 410 from gaabxx, or prozin going to try to go for satchel charges and try to create that one way to fight back towards the defender spawn when they're trying to push your opponents back. Well, all of that is fully denied from Mazino. And not only that, he gets upper hand advantage, verticality versus the players pushing down towards orb. So that's a very strong position of playing that right now. And Crew, they're just looking to react now on the play of Sharks. They're waiting for the late wall if they come in contact onto tube. And then Sharks, they're still staying stuck in spawn. They're still trying to figure out where these players are playing from Crew, and they just still don't have an answer yet.
We won't be seeing Sharks making their way towards that B-side attack. This presence is felt, and just look at the control coming through from Crew. Klaus able to pick off one. gaabxx will die before they can even really get ground onto the site. So once again, despite the res coming through, you can see that Viper wall. We talked about this, how potent that toxic screen can be in the retake, but also to prevent the opposition from being able to get to a position to plant the spike. Ice will go up to try to provide some cover. Frags, 1 HP, able to get the spike down and somehow survive. This is quite labored.
Such a big flank.
Now what can NagZ find? I mean, deNaro is looking for this. It's all about the timing here for NagZ. Oh, able to find one, thanks to the reveal from the recon, and the trades start to come through now, but that bomb is ticking away. The pressure is on the defenders here. Crew need to find their way onto this frag, and they're going to get it. Mazino is just unstoppable so far today. Excellent shooting from him, and that's going to be Klaus with that defuse. And another round in the bag for Crew.
Just so clean on that retake at the same time, and just miscommunication I find that at the same time for Sharks, because yes, deNaro, that's the second time that as a Silva player he's continuing to watch that flank, and they have to have those bodies to watch flanks because they don't have a sentinel on top of that on these pulse plants, right? So they need a little bit more communication, because he's watching it but in a different angle that exposes his teammates that aren't watching their back because they're focused on preventing the push and the retake coming back from Crew from the defender side. So just a little bit of a mishap that just makes the whole pulse plant positioning for Sharks just crumble all around. So I see this pause coming in on top. I think it's a great call right now if this is going to be a pause, a timeout that's needed for Sharks just to try to recuperate, and what can they do now that they have a Blade Storm ready? They could go for this force buy still and try to figure out. I even think that gaabxx could buy a weapon for prozin instead, so that prozin doesn't have to get stuck on a Spectre. But overall, man, Crew has been looking really strong on this defense.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying what they're bringing to the table so far. They aren't timid at all. I'm loving the aggression around the B-long position as we go into this tech force. We can talk a little bit more about what we've been seeing so far in this matchup. Crew certainly looking really formidable, and they're looking comfortable as well. And as I was mentioning, just enjoying that B-long aggression, that has caused issues for Sharks. And then equally, when Sharks have tried to go more towards a committed play on that A side, they're kind of struggling in getting backside control. They don't seem to be able to push the defenders out entirely, and that's problematic. And I think we are seeing some of the differences in composition and where the strengths are in having that Viper on mazino, who he is just hitting phenomenally well so far as well, so that's always helpful. But the Viper does feel like it's making a big difference right now.
Oh, definitely. And even when I look at it, I think you're going to have to ask a lot from deNaro at this point, because we've seen so many looks of Crew's defense so far, even just from the way that they place utility from Viper, right? If it's not an aggressive wall here towards this B side, it's also going to be a wall to prevent a push from yellow. If not, it's also a wall that can help a retake from spawn side into yellow. And you're kind of keeping Sharks guessing. There's no conditioning that Sharks can really do against Crew right now. And so that's why I think Asoba is very important with deNaro. He has to start scouting out a little bit more, trying to figure out where the positions are, and then starting to understand where this wall comes up. How can they play this? Is it going to be a passive playstyle, or is it going to be another one of those rounds where Crew just decides to push towards A side, get a couple of kills, fall back on numbers? We've seen, like, what, 4 or 5 different setups, 4 or 5 different variations of Crew's defense, and there's just so many rounds, or not that many rounds left on that first half, that Sharks have to readjust a little bit faster, but the pressure is on. Those rounds are ticking down.
Yeah, definitely. I wonder if Sharks will find more comfort on the defense. You know, time will tell, of course. But it would be cool to see some slower rounds coming through from Sharks, perhaps going more for like some more mid-aggression. We haven't really seen that too much from them as of yet. But, you know, Crew have been playing, you know, heavier towards some of the extremities in some cases. And so, you know, when that is the case, when the defenders are more committed towards an extremity, for you in the early rounds, in the early timing, within the rounds, there is an opportunity as the attacker to take the space on the map that the defenders are, where they are weak, which would be middle in that case. So
you're right.
It'll be interesting to see if there's any play there from Sharks' playbook around that position on the map, as Crew haven't been doing too much there themselves.
You're absolutely right. I think, sorry, Dan, I think when you're looking at it at the same time, too, where they're trying to hit towards the A side, trying to work the extremities, they've only found Klaus's utility towards that A side defense. They haven't seen anything towards mid yet. And what we know as the observers, third person, the fans watching this game, is that deLzeek's the one that's going to play the stage inside the tube. Again, reactionary on that wall. And what I like about the reactionary on the wall for Crew is that if they don't place it right away, it could be a very strong wall for the retakes also towards that site. So I think as we're trying to waste out utility for Sharks that they've been doing very well over that B side, I think they could try to rotate a little bit more towards the mid, waste out the utility on mid side, and then reset kill noise, and then they could maybe attack where crew will have less utility, and then the aggressiveness, the whole W from Sharks playstyle could maybe shine a little bit more.
Yeah, that's I love that point, and you know, if for example you're able to really convince crew to use that toxic screen in a spot where it's not going to be helpful later on in the rounds, perhaps because you're sort of trying to run some fakes in a Sharks' position, that could be pretty cool as well. And I think for them to effectively make maneuvers like that, it probably does start with winning B long, and because with winning B long, it feels like it's going to be a committed push, but you still have a lot of options as the attackers to kind of safely fall back and rotate out. So long as you don't get completely crunched through the middle, then you'll be good to do that. So that could be one of the ways that they could accomplish that. So with that said, you know, crew again, they've been pretty good around that B long position. I enjoyed seeing how they, you know, utilize Sage to, you know, drop the wall there and just make things really oppressive for Sharks as they try to take control there and put them in a position where for Sharks to then take B control, they almost had to overcommit their own utility to do so. So great stuff from crew to kind of put them in that position, because I think crew, you know, they're doing a good job in preventing Sharks from really playing how they want to, and that's always your job in a competition, is making sure that you can force your opponents into positions where they're uncomfortable.
Exactly. You don't have to play the guessing game. The tables have turned pretty much. When they played against Fnatic, yes, they won pistol. They won the converting round on the anti-eco. But anything after that was just seeing how crew was getting punished just every single time by Durka, especially on Haven, pushing down towards that site. So as we talk about them trying to evolve a bit towards that meta and realizing that they need a little bit more than just not learning the compositions, but to elaborate a little bit that play style and to have more variations on that defense, at least a term of variations on defense, is definitely shining on this matchup, or in this matchup currently versus Sharks. And like I said before, it's a play style that they're used to right now because of the regions that they're in, that they're fairly close between Brazil and Latin America, and that play style is fairly familiar when you're looking at, for example, game leaders, right, with NWZero coining the play style of shooting, the way that they're playing aggressively on the Brazil side. It seems that even in Latin America, you are trying to coin that a little bit more too. So when you have crew that studies so many tapes from the European side, and understands now, okay, Viper could be very good, Astra could be very oppressive, hey, let's try to bring in a Sky to stop how we're pushing so aggressively on this double duelist setup and this holding W playstyle, then that's where it starts coming together a little bit easier for crew right now, because they're just used to also the typical playstyle of Sharks. Would it work right now versus Fnatic? Probably not, because that's the results that we saw. Would it work versus Sentinels right now? They didn't have a chance to play them yet. They didn't have a chance to really taste what North America is like as well on LAN. So just this is familiar territory for them, which is why you see a little bit more comfort in that playstyle of how they want to push a little bit more aggressively as well. And it's paying off in dividends.
Yeah, love to see that. I'm always a fan of an aggressive playstyle. Be quite an aggressive player myself, coming from the world of Quake. But we were swapping a PC
and Raze non-stop, right? You keep playing Raze right now in your ranked games, just trying to push satchel charge kills.
Double satchel in your face, an operator. You know it. But yeah, we're just swapping out a PC. It should be good to go in a moment here. Back into the action shortly as we get the settings all loaded up on that new PC, and away we'll go. But yeah, I think it is really interesting to see the Brazilian teams, because they are, at least in the Counter-Strike world, synonymous with this is like aggression. You know, you were expecting them to be extremely aggressive to a fault, and happily so, knowingly to a fault. It's almost like we'll compromise everything so that we can make sure that we can have this really oppressive, fast-paced, aggressive playstyle and really make that work. And it's pretty amazing in a sense that once, you know, in that scene, at least in Counter-Strike, we got to saw some amazing talent coming up through that. It wouldn't necessarily produce, let's say, like world-beating teams, but when you're taking off all of the limitations just so you can play very aggressively, you really get to discover new things which other teams and players might not ever get to discover about themselves in terms of the kinds of plays you can make and the peaks you can actually make work. At this level, some of the rules, the kind of conventional rules in the fundamentals of the game kind of go out of the window a little bit, because when you're playing at the pro level, everyone's extremely talented, and with a slight edge, one player can really take a lot out of it. And you've got to listen to your instincts. You got to make sure that you're in a position to do that, because I think one issue that players experience when they play at this level is they want to play correct, but there's almost this irony to that can also put you in a position where you're going to be limiting your kind of intuition and the kind of the maneuvers that you want to make by instinct, where there's a little voice telling you got to go and do this, but the pressure comes through and you're thinking to yourself, I don't want to lose this match, there's a lot on the line, I just want to play correct, I don't want to take the risks. But if you're too risk averse, you're not going to really understand what you're capable of. And that was, again, like going back to the Brazilians, something that always really impressed me is that they are so fiery, they're so good at dealing with pressure, they're so good at bending the game to their will. And I think that's one of the things I always enjoyed the most about watching them, and especially watching them on LAN.
Yep. This is why I want to see a player like gaabxx right now currently playing the Jet for Sharks, just to unleash the power as well and play how he's meant to play. Because when we watched him yesterday versus Newturn, he was even bringing out a Sage at some point, I think on Haven, when they won that 13-5 against Newturn, and he was unstoppable as that Sage. So imagine the power that he could bring in playing as a Jet at the same time if you've been following towards the Brazilian region. I think this is going to be something that could definitely help Sharks at the same time, to the style of where we just witnessed Patty Pan, for example, just flying long hair, don't care, and just going around the site as that Jet and just opening it up with the daggers, also with the operator too. We haven't seen so far the economy work in the favor yet of Sharks, where they could actually bring out the operator potentially on the attack, because you look at a lot of these maps so far here, Dan, where opping is not that common these days on the attacker side, but I do find definitely that a map like Icebox could definitely work.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, and we're back into the action once again. I'll get the drone coming through from deNaro towards A. Again, we mentioned that, A has been, pretty much everything's been difficult for Sharks. Usually, so far, Crew have been able to hold on to this backside control, which is a huge win if you are the defenders looking to coordinate a retake. So we'll see if Sharks can do anything different here to have some success on this A site.
Well, they know that there's an operator right now towards the A side, but the thing is, Leitch is a little bit too far back if they want to try to push out with a Paranoia, for example. But this recon dart is perfect to create that space, and like we said, gaabxx is now with the knives on the top of 410. They should be able to take this map control. Oof.
Oh, klaus is just going to swing through. Fantastic shot coming through from NagZ as well. And NagZ might be able to find some more here. I love the shorty sidearm. Not too much here for Sharks to do. 2 versus 4. Spike will be planted. Leitch actually just trying to bait out a player. And BNJ will take down prozin in the meantime. So looking pretty impossible indeed.
Wow.
Sharks will go down. And again, they're just unable to get control, like full control of the site.
Yeah. It looked like it was, though, Dan, because, like I said, they had control of 410. You had prozin already close towards that screen. The smoke was already coming out, but that's the issue again. Now when you're looking, okay, we're playing an Omen instead. How can we run and actually cover and prevent any type of visibility or angles being held by the defender side? Let's throw some dark covers. What happens then within the dark cover? Because it's so huge within that space, you could play inside it. You could also be not afraid of it, just like Crew aren't. And the way that they've been swinging through, Klaus coming out just to get the 2 duelists down has been huge into the 2 kills that helped Crew to win that round. So yes, despite you threw the recon dart to come out, I think we were missing a couple of paint shells if I didn't see it at the right spot, but I think they had to find something else at this point. Everything I've been trying here for Sharks just hasn't been working, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's also quite difficult too, because we haven't really been seeing defaulting from Sharks. They haven't really set too much in the way of expectation towards Crew or condition them all that much. And once you're this far into your half as well, it gets kind of difficult, because you've kind of lost the the time needed to kind of do that. So in that sense, they could go to a default style right now, but I think Crew are very comfortable just playing just on the sides and just playing generally quite passive. That's a dangerous place for Sharks to be in, because it means that it means that Sharks are playing against opposition that are just super comfortable not having info. And the reason is because crew have just been sitting on the sides and just reacting and defending really well. There hasn't really been the need for crew to take risks to get information. And in the perfect world, in a top level match, what you're looking to see is you're looking to put the defenders in a position where they're always scared because they're like, we don't have enough information, we need more information. And right now, crew is not scared. They are pretty content with where they're at.
Exactly, which is why Klaus is swinging out like that and getting 2Ks, right? So at the same time, as much as you're thinking that you're getting map control, you're still playing into crew's game. The timing that they've gotten from Klaus to swing out to get those 2 kills was probably a surprise from Sharks because we haven't seen that yet on these type of plays where they think they have the sight, but no, they don't. If not, it's just going to be very aggressive at the beginning where you could maybe expect it because you're basically pushing from spawn side and you're holding from spawn side. You can expect the pushes, coming in from the defender side. This time it doesn't. We have an aggressive Hunter Scary, a big recon dart that's pinged so many players right now. It's just going to be Sharks, unfortunately, 1 player behind, 1 player also at half HP in Leitch, and they're just trying to get this plant down towards the A side, but there's so much utility from Killjoy that's going to deny this right now.
Yeah, looking to do the damage that they can on this save round. Boombot sent forward. Nice shock dart coming through as well, making life a little bit more challenging here for Sharks. Looking to get that spike planted. It might not happen at this point. There's not too much left in the way of players here for Sharks to really have any breathing room to get this spike planted. But crew, they may actually force Sharks to plant because that gives them the information as to where one player is, allows them to creep forward. Risk coming through from crew actually. Just one more player left. deNaro on the site will be dealt with. So, couple kills. It's something, at least. And I have to say, kills have been hard to come by from Sharks, generally speaking.
Yep.
So far in this game.
Definitely. And I think it's not to the detriment of Sharks' skill right now. It's just the positioning has been very good, right, for how crew has been setting up. Because you saw that operator, he didn't really want to commit going out towards that window when he knows that deNaro is right there by the ropes, trying to get a default plan, trying to go for a fake plan. And they're swinging, they're jiggling, they're peeking at the same time. While he's doing that, another attacker is coming in from the left side at screens, just trying to get that angle, which is why I kind of see where Fra wanted to pull out the res. They wanted to bait it out and force the operator to come out at the same time, but crew, they just didn't bite the bait. It was just easier. And you know what, when you're playing a bait versus the Sharks and it's not working, there's something that shows the confidence from crew's side.
I like the delay here from crew as well on this B side. We can see that Sharks have set their sights to attack B, and we've got that Viper wall ready to go, the Killjoy utility as well. And this is just going to slow things down. Wow, okay. Oh, God, crew have just annihilated Sharks. I don't even know what happened there. But now there's just Brazen left, and he's stuck, and that's going to be good for the Prime Gaming Flawless for crew.
Wow.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, they had the toxic screen up on the defender side, and I don't know if you've noticed the little X's on that minimap when they died. Everybody pretty much lined up very close to the wall where they hoped that they weren't going to get wallbang. Look at this, right where it was. So actually, they spotted the enemies before the wall even came up. So now you have 2 players now spamming from site, 1 from Snowman, and it's just a shooting gallery pretty much, where unfortunately for Sharks, they're not, nothing is working in their end. I'm repeating myself at this point too, but it's just like you want to have some sort of hope right now for Sharks, but any type of like light at the end of the tunnel gets immediately shut down here by crew. It's just darkness all the time.
Yeah, and Sharks will try to eliminate things with this A push. Keeping it quite simple and straightforward. They're just going for full pushes to one bomb side or the other. gaabxx able to take down that turret and trying to hold onto some of these forward positions. Crew happy to fight though. Drone coming through as well. They still have that backside control. We talked about how important that is, and the Hunter's Fury will come through to deny the lockdown. deNaro able to do some good damage there. prozin able to finish off 1 with that showstopper, but this is looking very difficult right now once again for Sharks. Spike is not down, and we've got crew just marching through the site on the retake, and they're already down a single player at this point. Man, the confidence here from crew is something to behold as they go 8-2 on this defensive side.
And didn't even mind putting the Viper Spit down too, just to have like a triple peek in the end. So not even playing really in the screen. And it looked very disruptive. It looked like that you wanted to put all your eggs into one basket to hopefully get something done because you've invested in a Hunter's Fury and a Showstopper. The space was created at least on the right side of the site. But where was that smoke? There was no smoke there towards screen. An easy kill coming through. And even on top of that, even if it was smoked on screens from Leitch, there was a recon dart that came out from B&J, from Crew, that even pinged out Fra trying to go for a plant. So we talked about how good the recon darts, how Silva could be on these retakes, and Crew just takes the upper hand one more time. So you're seeing now Marshall's coming out, a half buy coming in right now. I see a Bulldog because I think you're buying pretty much so you can have enough into the last round. And they just have to try to scrape something right now. It's just they're not finding any gold in what they're digging.
All right, that's one good catch from prozin.
Little nugget
out of the picture, and with that, that's a lot of pressure because you can see that Crew are playing pretty aggressively towards B and mid at the beginning. They have this ice walk up, and also they have the toxic screen that's very forward on B long. So this is the perfect response, Vansili, from Sharks.
Yep. And that's how you reply. Unfortunately, a dry peak to come through, and at the same time, you saw a little bit of a lurk, right? I think for prozin, he was looking to create that space, but look at everybody else from Sharks. They were looking to creep slowly towards this B side, first a rotation out, and end up towards the B side. But they know this for Crew. Mazino is just playing all the way back towards Snowman, where they were able to open that gallery range before, the shooting range, up towards the long side. But with this Marshall, can they open it up here with gaabxx?
Yeah, you really want to see some impact from this Marshall. The dark covers are going down, though, to cover opportunities to get that spy planted. There might be opportunities here as well for Crew players to sneak through, but in fact, Sharks going very aggressive indeed, but it's going to be delzig to pick up a double. And that's going to make life quite difficult. The spike, oh, is there going to be enough time here? NagZ going forward, he will get the denial on the plant of the spike, and that's going to be good for the round victory. Well, only man standing, but
last round in
another round to Crew.
That's it. Yep. One more to go. I mean, you are so close to almost getting around. And I did like what I saw, though, from Sharks, right? They tried to do things a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more of a surprise play, pushing through the dark cover from Leitch so they could get towards that spawn. And that's where I think having a Viper instead would have been so good, because we're seeing this a little bit more at the same time, where you're throwing a toxic screen from green all the way across to the B site and all the way across the spawn at the same time. So denying that vision, pushing through that instead, and then using maybe if you have a Sky in there for flashes, allows you to get the control towards that B site and play a much stronger post plan, just as we saw actually in the last series between Crazy Raccoon and X10. That said, though, last round of the half, we're just going to try to go aggressively, hold W towards this B site, the recon dart towards the back of the site, Klaus going for an Odin Vandal in the back of the spawn, but it's still going to be Sharks getting the first blood.
Klaus is in a great position. Oh, the lineup there. Only good for the one. B&J from up high there, looking to make his way through kitchen. And there's not a lot in the way of ults here for either side at this point. We've got gaabxx there with the blaze bomb if required, and shock darts coming through, taking down Frazan. And B&J's been great with those shock darts so far. Getting this, I swear, getting the spike down in this matchup for Sharks has been very difficult, very traumatic. Mazino just charging through there, spraying wildly. And it looks like Sharks might be good for this one here. They take advantage on the player numbers. 3, well, now 2 versus 2 as NagZ pushes forwards.
It's not really planning for them either.
Caught by the paranoia. The pressure comes through, though. There is the defuse, is actually sticking it towards halfway. There goes the cloud burst. Oh, there's nobody peeking or spamming this. In fact, Crew are going to steal it away.
Oh, no.
Lice does not get the challenge in time, and that's a 10-2 first half in favor of Crew. Oh, it just seems like Sharks had so much trouble getting a spike planted, having to come off it so much.
You just have to thank B&J actually on that last round for Crew, because getting that recon dart out to actually ping out the spike carrier and then going for the shock dart kill onto Fra. Now you're denying time, you're running down that clock, and now you're making the attackers a little bit more nervous of where they should plant. Like, that shock dart kill was perfect. Now you pick up the spike, it's like, well, by then the defenders might have rotated. I cannot plant out in the open anymore for a post plant. So he goes for a safe plant, at least to secure that, and a post plant in favor of Sharks. But when it's not planted for you in the way that you're retaking at the same time, you only have a Sheriff on top of that on a 2 versus 1. Very hard to do. So you're hoping to change things around now on the defender side for Sharks. Let's see if it pays off.
Yeah, Sharks looking to go aggressive here with gaabxx. We'll see what he's able to actually do. Gets quite deep in this position. Finds mazino. That's a nice early open for Sharks. But the push towards the A site is where the real action is. You see that frazan has really delayed things with that ice wall and really caused pause for thought for crew as they look to rotate back with the spike. A 4v5 situation here for crew. It's not fun, but at least on the attack, it's, you know, you can choose where you pile in those numbers. And you can see that on B, Sharks are playing retake. In fact, they're playing retake really everywhere.
Very passively, yeah. You even have B and J all the way back towards that spawn side, so you can look up towards if anybody's going up on the tube side, because you still have the jet alive here, right? For gaabxx at the same, for NagZ at the same time. So and sorry, it was deNaro towards that spawn side. So very passive. They're looking to play that retake, and they're just giving up the site.
30 seconds.
Nice with some good damage there at a distance. We'll get the wall up for the safe plant. The pick comes through as well. 4 versus 4. Crew looking to hold on to these 4 positions. B&J, really great spot to be in. Lots of angles to worry about, but you can see looks like it's going to be frazan who will fall to him. delzik with a nice one with the classic as well. That's going to be a 2v2 now as it falls onto B&J. Is he able to make this one work? They're able to get the defuse started. Now the pressure is on for B&J. Has to swing around the corner. Has to go all the way here. The stick is coming, and the stick is good.
That was so nice. You got to thank the stars there for that wall that came up at least towards the end so that they could actually get that defuse. It's a nice valiant attempt on that pulse plan for B&J to try to win that one. Yes, the round comes in for Sharks. It was a much-needed pistol, but you've lost every single one of your players. And I think because you have so much of a cushion and you're so comfortable right now on how the results have been here for crew, I wouldn't be surprised if you actually have a force buy going into the second round right now. You could definitely force up the Spectres. The Stingers, even though you think that the Stingers might not be as good, it's still damn good right now in this meta, in this patch. And you see it. Spectres all across the board, full shields, small shields on the attack. So even though here, Sharks, they won that round, they're still going to be in a tough spot.
Definitely, and you can see that there's early information there for Sharks. And you can see also that gaabxx actually wanted to try to punish based off of that, but maybe going a little bit too deep. Gets caught out, and that's going to be a pretty decisive advantage coming in now for the likes of crew. You can see right now, crew are really trying to punish the lack of information here for Sharks. Sharks don't quite know where this attack is coming. The last information they had was towards A, but crew have cut noise entirely.
Yeah. At this point, I think even at the same time for Sharks, stacking up more towards one extremity seems to make sense because, again, no Sentinels. The only way you can get information is from a Sova. You're trying to recharge the recon dart just to try to get the information. Now they're gambling towards the A side, and that's where the hit is coming.
And they're able to defend 1-for-1 at least. Looking quite good here for Sharks so far. deNaro from up above there with the shock darts could do a lot of damage with this one. Ooh.
Close.
2v3 for crew. Mitch will make his way around 410. Has to be careful though, Leitch is somewhat isolated from his teammates. Oh, frazan able to get it going there on the flank. And a 1-for-1 ensues there, leaving mazino in a 1 versus 2. deNaro with that high ground advantage, able to take it down. And Sharks, they pick up a defensive round. Really nicely done, especially given that they lost gaabxx very early on in the round.
Yeah. I also like the play here from Sharks too. They had a flank coming in later on as well. So not having that sentinel and trying to get a little bit more information. How do you want to play this right now? Rotating players, but at the same time, you want to try to go for these sometimes aggressive pushes just to try to get information, especially when you're a man behind. It's some of the basic things that you want to look at when you're playing a tactical FPS is if you don't have a way to find information, you're pretty much at a one-man deficit or maybe two-player deficit. You kind of want to force the hand a little bit so you could guess a little bit better and stack up your numbers on the opposite end where the hit should be coming. And it worked fairly well here once crew made it back out here towards that A site. And with that, the force buy that came from crew on that previous round, even with spike plan, it's not enough for them to go back into a situation where they could hurt the economy here from Sharks, and they're going to have to go with shares.
B&J falling on belts already. And gaabxx wants to get in on the action, finds a nice little timing, catches one. That's NagZ done. There's 3 sheriffs to go. There we go. The sheriffs are scary, but looks like the danger is almost gone. Just as I say that, of course, Klaus able to take down gaabxx. You can see that gaabxx really wants to get in on the action.
Yep. Well, we've mentioned it before, right? Like, unleash it, try to gain that confidence, especially against an anti-eco. Just pushing forward and being able to land those shots is definitely going to help them build that back and potentially help Sharks move back into the second half of this portion of the map.
Getting closer now. Really looking for that damage.
30 seconds left.
Would be really great for Crew if they could find at least one more kill, but
Spike down A.
looking unlikely here. Ooh, mazino, not the best timing on that one. Will get taken down by Razan. And there we are, Sharks. Could very well be stringing some momentum together here now as they are going to winning ways in the last couple rounds. But the question here for me, Van Silly, is what are they going to do with their buy? Because are they going to carry forward some Spectres? Are they going to just rebuy everything into rifles? I mean, this is a very long-range map, so...
Yeah. I think right now, keeping the Spectres and having gaabxx even going with the Operator into this round, I think this is actually a good call for Sharks at the same time, because now you could have an anchor player towards A side or B. Looks like gaabxx is playing towards B side instead, about to come head-to-head. Oh, I like it. That's what we talked about before. The Allen drone to try to create a diversion or even try to push your opponents back, and that actually stresses out gaabxx as he gets spotted, and NagZ is able to swing out with the Vandal. So, like I said, the call was good, but at the same time, that's how you deny it.
Yeah, for sure. There's a reason why that drone on Belong is so powerful, just as you described, and that's a huge loss. gaabxx with that Operator will actually be collected, as we just saw, by Frizan, so we'll see if... Oh, no. Frizan also going down. Crew are really having their way with Sharks at this point, taking down pretty much everybody in these forward positions. And they have cut a clear path towards the spike plant here on this B site.
Spike planted.
And... at this point, Sharks might just want to try to save what they have. I mean, they do have gaabxx able to get the Blaze Storm out in the next round.
Exactly.
So possibly gaabxx could drop somebody and they would be able to get a decent enough buy. But it is certainly a desperate scenario for Sharks.
Mm-hmm. This is exactly why, Dan, I was saying that the call was actually a good one here for Sharks to actually invest into that Operator and save the Spectres into like their bonus round into this round, round number 16, just for the sheer fact that if gaabxx does die and they are able to save a couple of weapons, they could still have the Blade Storm into the next. And a Blade Storm, it could definitely be considered like a regular rifle right now, especially when it's wielded by a player like gaabxx. He could definitely turn it around here back for Sharks' favor if he gets good positioning right now on how aggressive he could be on this defender side now with the Blade Storm out. So we'll see what the economy is going to be like very soon here for Sharks, but with those 2 weapons that are saved, if you're new here to Valorant, moving into the next round, the ones that are able to stay alive, you only get 1,000 credits. So you don't get the full bonus of that everybody else would get, which is right now should be at 1,900 if I'm not mistaken, because you won 3 rounds in a row, you lost them right now as you see on the scoreboard. So they don't have that much money, but still good enough to buy for their opponent, or for their teammates rather, where now you're really at the bottom of the barrel in terms of what you have in money left behind.
Looks like a missed lineup there, Van Silly. If you call that, I saw just whiffing, but unfortunate. Unfortunately, you never want to see that. But we have more presence towards the safe site this round, so looking to see what Sharks are going to be able to do to hold this, or whether they'll actually try to give it up and play retake. They have 2 players quite deep on B-Long at the same time, so
yeah.
The issue with this for Sharks is that Crew can just do what they're doing here, which is pressure A pretty heavily, cut noise, and try to bait rotation and punish it. And they're actually giving up the flanks now, our Crew, as they want to actually commit onto the A site finally.
Yeah, because you had a turret to watch flank and Mazino towards that spawn side. What on defense you have right now is Prozin. He's gonna. I love this combo. The slow orb with the paint shells just to try to slow things down a little bit more for your teammates to rotate over. But the map and the A site is currently taken control by Crew.
Yeah, able to find that forward ground using the ice wall to get that plant down safely. There is a hole that we can see because Shark's trying to exploit it, trying to dive in there, trying to get or make it so that that spike does not get planted, but they will not be able to make that happen. And they gave up a lot for that attempt. They lost a couple players, I think, trying to dive on top of that spike. So now they're in a 2v5 retake. That's certainly quite difficult, especially on this site, especially with the plant being somewhat open. And you can see once again back to a save. And gaabxx actually still has the Bladestorm available.
Bladestorm, yeah. Yeah, so he could definitely drop this Vandal out for a teammate, go with the Bladestorm, and still you might have something working for Sharks. And I saw a little bit of frustration going on at the same time for gaabxx. You saw him, he's just pre-firing shots. Okay, they're trying to hunt him down. I'm okay with that at the same time too for Crew. And as they move up towards Tube, unfortunately now, another fall. That's going to be Leitch. And that's even going to be even worse now for Sharks at map point. And the economy should be fairly low. But to get back here, Dan, about that frustration from gaabxx, he was just going for those pop shots into the A site, saying, hey, come at me. Like, I need to bring this confidence back into the second map. I don't mind going for aim battles here towards the A side and try to see if I could just pop your head if you're going to try to peek out towards pipes. But what I do like from Crew, hey, they're strolling right now. They're gliding away, and they're strolling into the victory of the first map, and they don't want to overcommit. They just want to play their own game plan, their own style, and their what they prepared for this matchup, and they're playing it perfectly. Their game plan.
Yeah, definitely. It does seem like Crew a level above at the moment for sure, and Sharks are such an interesting position here, given that, as you mentioned, it's just not the best situation in the world to buy. I'm actually surprised we didn't see the Bladestorm a little bit earlier. But we'll see if they're able to do a better job here on this defense. It does seem like, gaabxx has really struggled to get the openings that he's been looking for, whether it be on B long or elsewhere when the operator is in hand. And I feel like I like Crew's approach. We saw a more conventional approach from them in that previous round where they create some presence across the map and then they start pressuring the A side of the map much more heavily, and they kind of cut noise for a little bit and just see what their opponents will throw at them utility-wise, maybe see if they can punish rotations before finally, making the full push a little bit later on. I think that approach is quite good. It gives you options. And it creates a sense of desperation for the defenders as well, because they don't know what's going on.
And this round, Dan, here, it looks like Sharks are looking to play a position where they could maybe move a little bit more aggressively, gain that early map control on that B side, and potentially rotate out gaabxx on A after. Usually I see like an Omen trying to anchor out on his own towards B, but it's actually going to be gaabxx that's going to try to push forward first. With that, though, a default being held by Crew, expecting some sort of aggression coming out from mid side, from A side, and it was so close. You saw deNaro inching over and decides to fall back, and he's able to just survive for a bit and really keep it on the 5 versus 5. But the Aldrone comes in towards the A side. They have a Hunter's Fury too. This could definitely help out to open the A site.
Yeah, this slower pace from Crew is actually helping them out quite a lot, because we saw, as you mentioned, that early play from deNaro in mid and some investment of utility. And Aldrone's going out in the mid round now in mid from deNaro to try to find out what exactly Crew are doing. Oh, the timing on the toxic screen couldn't have been better, but doesn't matter. gaabxx is there to punish, and mazino goes down. And there's 40 seconds to go to get the spike planted, and at this point, Crew are starting to feel perhaps some desperation. They need to get all of the bodies on a site. It looks like B is going to be that site.
You will not kill my
And because they have a res too, I was going to say it could be stressful at the same time too, because they drop mazino, which means they don't have a toxic screen to go back towards B. But forcing that res and just booking it back towards the A side, it could keep Sharks guessing, but they still have 2 players inside the site with great angles so far.
And here we are, we're going to get mazino just charging forwards. There's the Viper's Pit from up high, gets taken down immediately. Hunter's Fury gets sent through the side as well. Spike is coming down, the lockdown sent out by Klaus as well.
10 seconds left.
And time is of the essence here to get that plant. Just enough time for the NG though. gaabxx is all on gaabxx. Out comes the blades! The right click is not good, it's going to be locked in by Crew. BNJ